Hello scaredy cats, it's me, Scaredy Matt. In the last video, I complained about the Nightmare on Elm Street remake quite a bit, which I didn't love doing, because I think people know by now that that movie isn't great. I think remakes are a contentious topic among movie fans. Most remakes are made by studios eager to cash in on valuable IPs, rather than any sort of desire to tell a good story. And this is especially bad for horror movies, which are considered a more mercenary genre by studios. Like, they're just shit that prints money. They don't actually give a shit about any of these properties. They're not gonna get any prestige from Leprechauns, so just pump them out. Let the fans eat their slop. Yum, yum, yum. We eat it up. We do our part. We just eat whatever slop they feed us. Filmmaking may be an art form, but it's also a business. It's not like original movies are made simply for the joy of expression either. Remakes don't have to be creatively bankrupt. They can take old ideas and remix them in interesting ways. Just, you know, usually they don't, because the whole point is to cash in on the familiar, so why rock the boat? That being said, there are a lot of fantastic horror remakes. John Carpenter's The Thing is a sort of remake from The Thing from Another World, though pedants I'm sure will be quick to point out that it's more like a readaptation of the original short story, Who Goes There? There's also The Fly, The Evil Dead, and to a lesser degree I suppose Evil Dead 2, which confusingly is a sequel and a remake of the original Evil Dead. It couldn't get the same filming locations. Look, filmmaking's hard. There's Suspiria, I could go on, etc. Why don't you list some of your favorite horror remakes in the comments? Suffice to say, I'm not against the concept of remakes, but personally, I prefer when remakes diverge from the source material, because I've already seen the original movie, I want to see something new. I'm going to focus on horror movies that I think would be different or mean something different if released today. There are also 3 flawed movies with solid premises held back by mixed executions that I think would benefit from another filmmaker taking a crack at them. So number 1, we got The Stuff. This Stuff is about a snack food that's addictive, delicious, and calorie-free, but on the other hand, it also turns you into a monster and eventually kills you, so it's not a great deal. This movie makes me feel like I'm losing my mind because I really want to see the movie people keep telling me it is. Like, the concept is incredible, and the themes are so relevant that it feels to me like people kind of just invented a movie whole cloth in their minds and substituted it for this one. The Stuff is terminally boring and annoying. The performances are lousy, and most of the movie is empty space. There are 1 or 2 cool effects. There is not a great satire, but the suggestion of a great satire, but that's it. It's a whole lot of wasted potential. But like, some guy pretended to find shrimp in a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and it was the most compelling story I'd read in weeks. The idea of consumer goods hiding a dark, dangerous secret is always relevant because, you know, the companies that make these goods are actually evil and out to hurt you. Here's the twist I'd like to see in a The Stuff movie made today. Instead of people working to uncover the dark secret of the stuff for the whole runtime, that's just the first act. And at the end of that first act, the public is made aware that the stuff is dangerous and turns them into monsters. But nobody cares. They keep eating it, they defend their right to buy it. Public health officials warn about the dangers. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Maybe rich people start buying organic versions of this stuff that isn't dangerous, while poor people have to eat the regular one that turns them into goo monsters. In fact, when they reveal that the stuff turns you into a goo monster, the stock price of the company that distributes the stuff actually goes up. Everybody's buying it now, because I mean, if this stuff is worth turning into a monster for, it's gotta be pretty good, right? So cities start getting overwhelmed with stuff monsters, and it sort of becomes like a fashion trend to become deformed by the stuff, with celebrities and musicians deliberately letting themselves look monstrous. And the whole time, you're left to wonder, is this because of the stuff's influence, or is just this the way people react to marketing? Production is ramped up so that the stuff can be shipped internationally. Humanity starts to become nothing more than a host species for the stuff. Executives at Stuffco or whatever start buying up farmland and letting it rot so that people will have no other food to buy, even though it's becoming clear that this is leading to the end of the world. They're making money hand over fist. What do they care? Well, how about Pulse? Pulse is itself a remake of a Japanese film called Keiro about ghosts coming out of the internet to get you. When this movie came out, it struck me as a very silly premise, even if the original is pretty good and the American remake has some fun stuff. The internet might not have been new at the time, but it still felt very new and exciting. The dangers looming on the horizon were all kind of theoretical, and it felt like old people freaking out about technology they didn't understand. And maybe that had a little to do with the fact that I was an awkward kid who preferred living on the internet to real life. But now we are followed everywhere by digital ghosts. Everything we do is monitored, scrutinized, shared on social media. The presence of everyone we know or have known is carried everywhere with us, and there's no escape. Also, your friends and loved ones are at all times subject to manipulation by hate groups, extremists, quacks, and predators, all of whom get to use social media to spread their ideas and influence. And the only thing standing between you and all that is an unseen and mysterious algorithm whose motives are unclear and seem kinda hostile. So you can kind of see where the movie would hit different now at times. In a Pulse movie made today, I'd like to see the ghosts never actually come out of the internet. I'd like to see them manipulating people into dangerous situations or violent behavior through social media, either by curating their feed to provoke them or making their own posts, which subtly guide them in the direction they want. You start with the Facebook accounts of dead people suddenly reactivating and sending threatening messages to their families, and go from there. And there's just endless potential for this kind of story. Imagine something taking over your account and posting your address online and pictures of all your valuables. Imagine your accounts posting photos of yourself that you don't remember taking, and then as you go through them, you find one of them is a photo of you sleeping while you know for a fact you were alone in the house. Imagine public figures or politicians suddenly posting cryptic or misleading messages to sway people towards dangerous or destructive behavior. But this time it's because of ghosts, and not the normal reasons that they do that. Imagine if social media was ghosts. Or how about Monster Squad, the next generation? Look, out of all of the movies on this list, Monster Squad needs a remake the least because the original is the most watchable movie of all time. Monster Squad is the pizza of movies. It's not good for you, but you're always in the mood for it. If you didn't know, Monster Squad is a movie that is the Goonies, but what if the Goonies also had to fight the classic Universal Studios monsters? And it's a lot of fun in that 80s PG-13, barely appropriate for kids kind of way, even if some of the sexual politics of the film have not aged well. Now for this one, I'm gonna suggest not a remake, but a reboot, with more kinds of monsters. The kids from the original all have their own kids now. The timeline on that doesn't quite add up, but just go with it. The monsters are also back, they want revenge, and the monsters also have their own children, who are all plays on the way that those creatures have been readapted since the original Monster Squad. Like for example, Dracula could have a son that's like a Twilight vampire, who helps the Monster Squad, because he's a good boy, like the Twilight vampire. Wolfman would not have children because of the trauma done to his nards. He is incapable of having children. Also, he died in the first movie. So it's Monster Squad Jr. versus Monsters and Junior Monsters, upping the stakes, but also, the monsters start recruiting people around town and giving them supernatural powers. So in addition to Universal Studios monsters, we've also got slashers in the mix. And what's that crash landing out in the woods? Whoa, it's only a UFO, and now there's aliens who are hostile to both monsters and humans. But the original Monster Squad, now a bunch of 40-somethings, have been planning for this, and they have an arsenal of monster hunting weapons they can fight back with. Their goal is to stop the monsters before they can summon a Lovecraftian eldritch horror, but they fail, and then there's a big kaiju battle in the third act because get this, the friendly Frankenstein is back, so they build him this enormous body with tech that they salvaged from the alien ship to fight the kaiju. The point is, the original movie had one foot in reality and one foot outside, and there's room for all sorts of zany stuff because they're already in a world where anything can happen. And I would like to see more done with this property. Fuck the dark universe. Who needs grim remakes of these campy monsters? Except the Invisible Man. That was tight. How about we just have him fight some preteens and get kicked in the nards? That's what audiences want, and by audiences, I mean me specifically. That's what I want. You know some studio out there is pitching this as a dour, joyless Stranger Things clone. The key to making this movie is to make the conflict escalate to an absurd degree, but give no indication that the people making the movie are in on the joke. No winking at the camera, no meta jokes. Treat these ridiculous, silly events like they're actually happening and have the characters act that way. Make the monsters scary and dangerous and let the humor come from the kids. Anyway, Hollywood, if you're looking for me to put together a treatment for any or all of these films, I am available, but you'll have to talk to my agent, who is a fictional Babadook with a New York accent that I thought of while under the influence of marijuana edibles. He's also a lawyer and some kind of secret agent. These are my terms. Oh, thanks, Maddie. I contain multitudes. I'm also an accomplished jazz musician. I call this song the Like and Subscribe Blues.